my name's Rachel Cosford and I'm here to talk about fashion in the future. So I know the theme of this conference is another time, another place. However, I'd like to start by looking at how fashion operates in this time, in this place. So between 30 and 50% of all fashion products that are on the market actually will get reduced or marked down. This can be for a variety of reasons. It could be that the price wasn't right for the consumer. Could be the fit wasn't very good, or it could be maybe the wrong weather at the moment. Maybe it's the wrong weather at the moment. But the vast majority of reasons that a garment gets marked down is due to product failure, which means that the consumer simply didn't like it, so they didn't buy it. This means that the retailer then has to slash the price in order to shift the stock. This then squeezes the gross margin, because obviously the cost to the retailer, the cost price, stays the same, but the selling price that they're achieving gets lower. This is obviously detrimental for business. So just to put it into context, a business like Marks & Spencer's last year turned over £4.1 billion worth in sales of general merchandise. So if they were able to improve their gross margin by just a fraction of a percent, that could obviously have huge implications for the profitability of the business. So the aim is obviously to reduce the markdowns and potentialise the best sellers. So how can firms do this? Well, I see co-creation as the future of fashion. Co-creation has grown in popularity over the last decade. It's mainly due to the advent of Web 2.0. It's about having a two-way dialogue with your consumers instead of just shouting at them. So instead of saying, here's our stock, take it or leave it, you're actually asking them, what do you think of this? Or how can we improve this? The reason co-creation has grown is also because consumers have changed. They've moved from being passive to becoming active. They actually want to become part of the process and they want to have their voices heard. The food industry have used co-creation recently. I don't know if you know that Walker's Crisps and Kit Kat both used co-creation and a public vote to help decide on a new product launch. So the fashion industry is starting to use co-creation. I'm going to show you a couple of great examples that are currently being used in the industry. They tend to fall into one of three areas. So the first one tends to be product development. So this is where they get the public's input on possible new product launches. The next is product promotion. So this is where the product's already been decided upon, but then the public helps promote it in some way. And then the third one is product feedback. And this is where they ask the consumers for feedback on a product that they've bought in order to improve future products. Okay, so the first example of product development is Threadless. So these are an American company, and they encourage members of the public to upload design ideas, mainly for t-shirts and sweatshirts. And then members of the Threadless community can rate the designs from 1 to 5. The highest rated designs then go into production and on sale on the website. So this is obviously a great example of co-creation, as without the public, Threadless wouldn't have any designs and therefore they wouldn't have a business. The next example is ModCloth. These are another American company, and they upload designs to their website and allow their users to give feedback. So they can either pick it or skip it. But they can also give comments as well on how the design could be improved. So again, this gives really useful information to the retailer about how they can make their products more appealing to their consumer. So the next example is product promotion. And ASOS have come up with a great tool called Fashion Finder, where they allow their users to compile mood boards or collages of items that they like. Other users can then view the mood boards, make comments on them, and click on the items if they'd like to buy them. So again, this is a great way of spreading the word about ASOS's products and other. It's a curation tool, similar to Pinterest, I guess. Another example of promotion is the Jimmy Choo's Style Makers campaign. This is where the brand asks users to upload images of themselves wearing their Jimmy Choo's, and then they were posted on the firm's website. This is a really great idea, as not only did it save the brand money in terms of they didn't have to run a promotional campaign, so pay models, location, photographers, it also engaged their consumers on an emotional level because it made them feel part of the Jimmy Choo brand because they got to see themselves on the website. So the final and probably the most common example that I've got to show you is product feedback. And this is simply where brands ask consumers who've purchased products to give them a review, usually in a star rating and then a couple of comments. Again, this is beneficial for the business as they can then improve products going forward based on the comments. So the area that I'm most interested in is when it comes to co-creation, it's actually using the public to try and predict what will be a good selling line. So this study was conducted in the States in 2010, and they actually found that the general public were better at predicting what would sell in terms of fashion styles than professional fashion buyers. So today, I would like to conduct a small experiment and see how good you, the audience, are at predicting bestsellers. So I've given you a URL on here. If you could use your phones or tablets to navigate the URL, you should find a form there asking you to pick from one of 5 options. What I'm going to do in a moment is show you 5 t-shirt designs, and I'd like you to pick one of those 5 designs that you think will be a bestseller. So I'm going to show you all the options twice, so you have plenty of time to make your decision. All you need to do is remember the option number of the design that you think will be the bestseller. Don't worry, I'll put the URL back on the screen in a moment in case you've missed it or haven't had a chance to get there yet. Sorry, I know it's a very snappy URL. Okay, so here come the options. They've all been on sale on a well-known high street retailer's website, and they were all priced at the same price point of £18. So you just need to pick your favourite, and I'm going to go through twice. Okay, so we have option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, and option 5. Okay, so pick one from those 5 that you think will be the bestseller, and then cast your vote using the form. So I'll go through them one more time.
Yes, please.
Option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, and finally option 5. Okay, so if you could now register your choice, if you haven't already done so, using the link. So while you're all doing that, I'm going to talk about the results that I've had when I've conducted this trial previously. I actually carried this out using my fashion buying and merchandising students, and I've had some quite interesting results, which I'm going to share with you now. If you haven't managed to vote yet, don't worry, just don't let what I'm about to tell you influence your choice. Okay, so the professional fashion buyer thought that this style would be the bestseller because she ordered the most units of this style. So if you went for option 3, congratulations, you're thinking like a professional fashion buyer. However, when I asked my students which style they thought would be the bestseller, the majority went for option 1. So if you pick this one, congratulations, you're thinking like a fashion student. So which was actually the bestseller? It was a tie. It was actually an exact tie between option 2 and 5. They both actually sold the most amount of units. So congratulations if you picked either one of these. What's interesting here is that the professional fashion buyer nor the students picked the best sellers, which contradicts the findings of the US study that I mentioned earlier, although mine was on a smaller scale and I used a slightly different methodology. So now for the moment of truth, and I'm praying that this is going to work. So let's see how you guys voted.
Wow.
Ooh, let's see. Ooh, the biggest percentage. Oh, it's option 1. You went for the same as the fashion students. So you're all thinking like fashion students. Well done. So what about the worst selling style? So this is actually the worst selling style. And both the buyer and the fashion students correctly predicted this would be the worst seller. The buyer ordered the fewest amount of units, and the fewest amount of students chose this as their best seller. So by a process of elimination, they correctly forecasted the worst seller. Interestingly, males and females equally, when I did the test, were able to accurately predict the worst seller. So in some ways, although it was disappointing that the students and you weren't able to predict the bestseller, it's actually more valuable from a business perspective to know what the worst seller will be, because these are the styles that go on to be marked down and then end up costing the business margin and lose profitability. So let's see if you got the worst selling style. Ooh, option 4. No, you picked option 3. You picked the elephant, the skating elephant. So, oh no, sorry, option 2. I'm lying on option 2. It was the pug in the plane. So you guys weren't able to predict the worst seller, unfortunately. So to come back to my original slide, I think the future of fashion is to use co-creation to engage with consumers in order to try and get this number down as much as possible, and in turn make the fashion business more profitable. But as we've seen, it's not always accurate. So how can businesses collect this kind of data? Well, I've already showed you a few options such as Threadless and ModCloth, and there's some really great services out there such as Fashion Data Company Edited, and they basically track live trends, so things such as colours, designers, even specific items, and they track this by monitoring trends on social media, so for example mentions on Twitter and blogs. Some of the fashion companies themselves have actually started to track this kind of information. So here we can see they've monitored the most pinned item on Pinterest. However, as we've seen, the public are not always great at predicting what the best sellers will be. And pinning an item or liking an item is quite different from actually making a purchase. So this is where I think pretotyping comes in. So this is a movement that actually recommends faking it before making it. So what does that mean? So, in the fast food business, an example of pretotyping would be to add an item to the menu that doesn't actually exist yet. So here we have the Terry hamburger. They would record each time that someone orders the Terry hamburger, but then explain to the customer that unfortunately it's out of stock. This allows the business to gauge reaction, but without putting in the time, the risk, or the cost of actually putting a new product to market. So, this can easily be used by the fashion industry, as most fashion retailers operate e-commerce websites. So they could offer various styles for sale and then test the reaction, allowing them to potentialise and book more of the most popular styles and not book the worst or least popular styles. And again, hopefully reducing those markdowns and improving their profitability. Another method that could be used is gamification. So this is where games are used to monitor and to some extent influence consumers' behaviour. So here's an example of a Facebook game that I was involved in developing. It's called the Fashion Intern, and players are encouraged to pretend that they're a fashion intern working for a well-known fashion magazine, and they are working in the fashion cupboard, and their job is to sort the samples into various categories. So here we have, they can say whether they love it, they're not sure, or they hate it. The players then earn points for accuracy and volume. The points then can be redeemed in the form of discounts for their favourite retailers. So again, this allows the retailer to gather valuable data on possible best and worst selling styles. So to conclude, I see fashion in the future as not just a dialogue, not just a one-way conversation, but where consumers are actively becoming involved in the creative process. I think this can be through many of the various examples that I've shared with you today. So it could be product development, it could be product feedback, or product promotion. It could be gamification, or it could be pretotyping. I think all these have the potential to make fashion the future a more profitable and maybe even a more fun place to be. Thank you.